Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Truckers Podcast, FYI. I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. It is 2 minutes after 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the 3rd of March. And welcome to the show. I hope everybody out there, hope you're enjoying your weekend. Being that it's Sunday and everybody back to work on Mondays or whatever you do throughout the week. Um, Good things come to an end, I guess. So, yes, it is later in the day to do a show, but I have to get this show in. And yeah, I was earlier um, looking at different ways of progressing my podcast, um, looking at possible ways of getting guests um, on my show, and I came across, I think it's called guest.com, and just gives you a whole list of people potentially to interview. So I thought I'll start channeling that and seeking out professionals who talk about health and wellness. So our brain and our and food. Ultra processed foods, also known as junk food, um, pops up quite frequently in my feed because I search it a lot, do a lot of reading about it, and all the health studies that they conduct about the ultra processed, highly processed, highly processed foods. Sorry, which is also known to be junk food. Low in fiber, high in sugar and calories, and the risks associated with this health wise. So these ultra processed foods undergo multiple industrial processes, and all the additives, colors, flavors, sugar, or baked goods, or sugary cereals, or soda drinks, and ready to eat or heat products that you just throw in the microwave, heat it up and eat it. And the health risks associated with the ultra processed foods is cardiovascular disease, and consuming these ultra processed foods is linked to 50% increase of cardiovascular disease related deaths, mental health. The ultra processed foods are associated with 48 to 53% higher risk of anxiety, common mental disorders, type 2 diabetes. There's a 12% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Overall mortality higher with the ultra processed foods consumption leads to 21% greater risk of death from any cause. Other health outcomes: obesity associated to 40 to 66 increased risk of obesity. Depression, a 22% increased risk of depression is observed. Cancer. The ultra processed foods are directly associated with a risk of colon cancers. The impact on the lifespan: consuming ultra-processed foods is likely shortening our lives due to their adverse effects on our health. Eating these ultra-processed foods, of course, what we just talked about, raises the risk of developing or dying from dozens of adverse health conditions. According to a new study review, in almost 10 million people, they found consistent evidence linking higher intakes of ultra-processed foods with over 70% of the 45 different health outcomes that they assessed. He's a senior researcher, Wolfgang Marx, from the Food and Mood Center at the Deakin University in Australia. And these higher intakes was considered about one serving or about 10% more unprocessed foods per day. And this other doctor, he's a scientist in nutrition, and he's a branch of the World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer. It's a proportion that we regard as baseline, and for people consuming more than this baseline, the risk might increase, said this doctor, Dr. Friesling. He wasn't involved in this study, but it doesn't matter. Researchers graded each study of having credible or strong and highly suggestive and suggestive. And all these studies were published in the past 3 years. And other things that, of course, we talked about is still pointing back to cardiovascular vascular disease-related deaths, common mental disorders. So the ultra-processed foods are high in calories, added sugar, sodium, low in fiber, and all these have been known to be to contribute to cardiovascular diseases, health outcomes, weight gain, obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension. The other impacts on some of the health conditions done by the researchers found highly suggestive evidence that eating more ultra-processed foods raised the risk of obesity by 55%, sleep disorders by 41%, development of type 2 diabetes at 40%, and the risk of depression at 20%. Cheaper alternative for people to go shopping. The affordability today is by means, simple terms, is just absolutely ridiculous. And it's not just here in North America, Canada, the United States, all around the world with food insecurities and food prices on the rise, and food, again, is going to go up even more from, it's not just supply and demand. Well, it can be part of it too, because depending on drought conditions and so on. can have an effect on pricing. Wars, I guess, can have can play a factor as well when it comes to wheat and other things like that. Um, so I did a little research on, for people. I mean, just to go grocery shopping. So I went on a local grocery store here in the city that I reside in, and so when it comes to breads, um, we just clicked on it varies in prices too, because still, I mean, it goes down to the lowest price. But if people are looking for healthier brands of bread, and gluten free, um, this one is made by Little Northern Bakehouse. I don't know where they're located, but anyways, gluten free Hawaiian wide slice loaf is $9.30. The Italiano bread, this is just white bread with sesame seeds, is $4.60. And then the Italiano thick slice style white bread is $4.60 a loaf. Gluten-free white loaf of bread is still $5.50. Now, break down to the very basics of white bread. Sliced white bread, $2.29 each. That's where most people are going to drive to. That's what they're going to go for. Because you're not just buying one loaf of bread for the week for the kids to have lunches. And for your lunch, if you take a lunch to work every day, I don't know what you do. The bread prices, the specialty dietary needs, if that's what people are looking for. Um, the sliced sprouted whole grain bread is $11 each. The gluten-free white loaf, this is the rustic, is $8.50 a loaf. If you still like your cinnamon raisin bread, it's $9. If you like your gluten-free millet and chia bread, it's $9 a loaf. Gluten-free seeds and grains bread is $9. So these specialty breads that people, rate basically goes anywhere from $9 to $11 for this type of bread. But then again, families, they're not going to go that route. They're going to buy the cheapest bagels, the cheapest buns, the cheapest loaf of bread. They're going to try to, when it comes to, even our fruits and vegetables, and then you wonder why that, just for an example, that's not what it's given me here. I have to type in a search just to even look at it. We'll just look at green peppers. On average, now it says $3.99 a pound, but on average, a green pepper costs you $2.50. Yellow peppers and red peppers actually more. And the thing is, I went to pick up some peppers the other day, green pepper, yellow pepper, and a red pepper, and the green pepper was $3.99 a pound, and the yellow and the red peppers were $4.99. And when I went to the checkout, so because I didn't buy a package, it was just individually, respectively. The green pepper was $3.99, the yellow pepper was $4.99, and the red pepper was $4.99. And I don't believe one pepper weighs a pound. That's 16 ounces. They're practically hollow. And it's no wonder people are struggling and going to the frozen food sections to buy, their hamburger patties and their chicken, getting chicken nuggets, or they're getting chicken strips, or whatever a case can be, because when it comes to our meat, and poultry, and most people go for the Angus or aged beef, what they like to buy, and roast ribs in racks. But anyways, you're gonna go buy, Angus top sirloin club, 2 per tray, is $8. Angus beef inside round steak value pack, 3/4 inch, 3 per tray, is $19. 3 per tray doesn't feed a family of 4. So you need 2 trays. So now it's $38. Angus sirloin tips. This is a family pack. Angus sirloin tip steak family pack, 2 per tray. $17. They're $16.86 average each. $16.86 average each. Or it's $10.99 a pound. How many families have 2 people? Well, there's families out there, single parents. But do they just have 1 child? They have 2 children? They have 3 children? If you like to have your roast on Sundays, Easter's coming up. People might have roast, might have ham, they might have turkey. This is a small roast. This is the small roast, serves 2 to 4 people. That's $25. People who like their T-bone steaks, you want to throw that on the grill. One steak, 3/4 inch, is $22. Here's your boneless top sirloin roast, $30. For $12.89 a pound. $28. Chicken, you think would be a better, better alternative. Chicken and turkey. People like their chicken. Generally, people are focused on buying chicken breasts, because we have a family to eat. They can get more meat uh, for the bang of the buck. If people like the turkey breast, bone in and skin on turkey breast is $14 for one. Prime chicken, boneless and skinless chicken cutlets is $16. Doesn't say how many are in a pack. Because they normally do say this if it's going to be that. So, okay, well, here's a family pack. Bonus, this is by Maple Leaf. Boneless, skinless chicken breast prime, 4 in a tray, is $19. It's no wonder people have so much stressors. In our lives when it comes to trying to feed our family. Our brain needs nutrition, and it needs really good nutrition. And our brain is always working. It's always on. It takes care of everything. Our thoughts, our movements, our breathing, our heartbeat, our senses. Never stops working 24/7. And we need good fuel. We have to fuel the brain. And it comes from the foods that you eat. And what's in the fuel that makes all the difference? What you eat directly affects the structure and function of your brain and ultimately your mood. We go through mood swings all the time. What kind of a mood you're in for today? What do you like to eat? What's your comfort food? Where do you go for that? Is it chips? Is it cookies? Cake? Ice cream? Other pastries? Pizza? Hamburgers? French fries? How much do you indulge in that? That's highly processed foods. Substances from low premium fuel, such as what you get from processed or refined foods, get to the brain. How you doing, Jesse? I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. So before you come out here, I talk a little bit about health and wellness, and look up um, the history of ultra processed foods, and what it does to our bodies, um, and your brain on food. It's almost, you can almost say it's like your brain on drugs. This highly the ultra processed foods. Um, what we need to really fuel ourselves, to fuel the brain with high in nutrients, better for us. We talk a little bit about the prices of food today, what the prices are like today for people um, who you have a family. You may have 2 kids, you may have 3 kids, or whatever the case may be, and then how are they going to afford to feed their families with the price of food today? And where are they directed to when they go into the grocery store, because they know they only have so much money? And are they going to that ultra processed food aisles, all your frozen foods, your frozen pizzas, frozen chicken strips, frozen all the other frozen entrees, and even when it comes to eating a really nutritious slice of bread. And on the lower spectrum of the breads out there, white bread, just your basic white bread. I was just looking at a flyer at the local grocery store. Just for the basic loaf of white bread is $2.30. Now, on the higher end of the spectrum, when you get into Nutri-Grains and more grains in your bread, it can be as much as $9 for a loaf of bread. And when people have families, lunch has got to be made every day. You're not just going to buy one loaf of bread to get you through the week when you have 3 children that you have to pack lunches for. So they're going to go for the lower quality of breads and buns and bagels, so the kids can at least have a lunch. And of course, they're going to go for the cereals, um, that the kids like to eat out there. And bringing up cereal for a second, being March, whatchamacallit, I have to look at my calendar here for a second. Give me a second here. Oh, that's not that. That's not what I'm looking for. St. Patrick's Day is coming up on the 17th. So, watching TV, this commercial comes on, cereal commercial for kids. You live here in North America. Lucky Charms, the cereal Lucky Charms. It was that cereal. And because St. Patrick's Day is basically everything green beer, whatever you partake on St. Patty's Day. So the commercial, so what they do with the cereal is they add the food coloring to it, obviously green. So when you put the cereal in your bowl and you pour milk on it, it turns the milk green. And then I'm thinking to myself, are kids really looking forward to St. Patrick's Day? Are they looking forward to the Lucky Charms that turns your milk green? High in sugar, no nutritional value whatsoever. And they can get away with this, targeting children with these highly processed cereals. But they most certainly cannot advertise tobacco and alcohol products towards children. And these highly processed cereals full of sugar is just detrimental to our health, to the children's health. Yet they can get away with this. And then what are parents supposed to do? Is that the economics of affordability, low paying jobs? Even two people working in the household on low paying jobs. Here in Ontario, the minimum wage starts at $16.65. Generally, they're paying more than that, but even $18 an hour. Even two people working at $18 an hour, that's $36 an hour coming in. It's gonna, maybe put you up to 70,000 coming in as income, but after taxes, after you pay your mortgage or you pay your rent, and hopefully it's not more than 30%, that your rent isn't more than 30%, or your mortgage isn't more than 30%. Interest rates are on is at the highest level in 40 years. Rents have doubled and tripled. We're seeing a lot of people, it's been in the news quite frequently too, big corporation landlords, when they buy up property to rent out, rental evictions are on a rise. And that means they're sending out these N13s to people, tell them that they have to move out of their units because they're doing renovations. You have to be out by a certain date. A lot of people out there as tenants, they don't know their rights, so they just assume that they have to move, then they have to go find a place to live. And these rent evictions are only solely to get people out so they can double and triple the rents. Special interest groups out there speaking out on behalf of tenants and tenants' rights. If you do get an N13 served by the landlord, doesn't mean you have to move out. They still have to go through the process. They still have to go to the landlord's tenants board. And they have to have a legitimate reason why you have to move out in order to complete the renovations. The tenant has the first right of refusal. The tenant decides he wants it. I want to move back in when the renovations are done. The tenant can't move back in. But that's not happening either because the landlords aren't telling the tenants when it's actually done. And they just turn around and re-rent it to somebody else for double or triple the rent. And it's no wonder, with the cost of living on the rise and the nutritional aspects of what we eat every single day and what we can afford every single day. Watching, it's in the news consistently anymore when it comes to food banks. Food banks started like 40 years ago, and they were to be temporary, and hopefully that we didn't need them. And here we are 40 years later. And food banks are turning people down because they're running low on supplies as well. More and more individuals and families are turning to the food banks for help or other services. People on a low wage, people on disability, struggling to make ends meet. And yet, when it comes to eating as healthy as we possibly can, that's where the affordability comes in. I was just talking earlier, I went just the other day, it's going to make up a dish, but I needed some peppers. A red pepper, a green pepper, and a yellow pepper. I wanted 3, but it only came in a 2-pack, so I had to buy it separately. For the green pepper, it was $3.99 a pound. Red pepper was $4.99 a pound, and the yellow pepper was $4.99 a pound. I'm standing there just shaking my head. For a pepper, practically hollow. So I picked up the red pepper, yellow pepper, and green pepper, and I went to the checkout. Put the green pepper on there, punched in the code. $3.99. I was livid. And then I put the red pepper on there, punched in the code. $4.99. Thinking to myself, how does one pepper weigh a pound? How does one pepper weigh 16 ounces? A head of lettuce, the lowest end on lettuce, the iceberg lettuce, was $5. I mean, holy shit, people can't even make a salad. How many peppers would I need to put in a salad? Well, I'm going to put at least 3 different, like the red one, a yellow one, and a green one in there. You're going to throw your red onion in there. You're going to throw your lettuce in there. When you get into the kale and all the other higher end of lettuces, packaged. It was packaged. And it was $10. Even the Canadian Food Health Guide, it was changed back in 2019. And dairy products are not in the equation. More fruits and vegetables, grains, and protein. The recommendation is that half your plate should be fruit and vegetables, or more than half, 3/4 of your plate should be fruit and vegetables. Then your grains and for fiber, beans and lentils and so on, and then your protein. So it could be chicken, beef, turkey, or whatever the case may be. And the recommendation is, if you're going to have red meat, so you're going to have, a steak, it should be, 3 ounces, no more bigger than a bar of soap. Springtime is just around the corner, and people, on nice days coming up, are going to be firing up the barbecues and stuff like that. And I was also on the local grocery store uh, app or site, and people who love the red meat, their steaks in general, right? Who doesn't like a good T-bone? For one T-bone, it's $25. $25 for one T-bone. Prime rib steak, generally they're up around anywhere from $16 to $18 for one. On the lower spectrum of red meat, you might get two in a pack for $14 or $15. Chicken is no different when it comes to chicken wings or chicken breasts, whole chickens, half chickens. When it's costing you $18 for 4 chicken breasts. The most expensive part of your grocery bill is going to be meat. It's going to take up 3/4 of it. And you haven't factored in any other foods. Your meat alone will cost you $100. That's probably on the lower spectrum. On average, a family is going to spend $250 a week, $1,000 a month, depending on what you're buying. So when it comes to our health, people have a hard time sleeping at night. And it could be for a lot of different reasons. Worrying all the time, for one. Worry how you're going to pay the hydro bill, how you're going to pay the water bill, how you're going to pay the rent. You can go to the food bank once a month. You can go to the rent bank. It's not a monthly thing. You have to keep going to the rent bank. I mean, these are donations that people make in order for these places to have these things. Same with the food banks. People make donations in order for the food bank to have things. So people can go there and get help. Other health issues. When it comes to eating ultra processed foods. For a lot of people, this is what they can afford. If that, at times. I mean, even that stuff isn't cheap. So today I was also thinking about it's time that I got some guests um, come on my show, people who are qualified in the health and wellness and in diets. And there's books out there you can read too. I mean, there's lots of stuff on health and wellness and stuff like that. And one couple of authors that I like, and you can even find them on YouTube. On YouTube, you can watch their videos. Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Neil Bernard, Dr. William Lee. Those are just three that I follow, and their books you can get their so you can get their books on Amazon. I mean, Amazon has everything, or your local bookstore. You know, um, the site that I was looking at, I think it's called um, guests.com. Pretty much links you to anybody who you want to interview. And I think I saved it on here because I save a lot of stuff. And why I wouldn't, I don't know. But no, that's hilarious. And I didn't do that. But anyways, even for podcasters out there, that it's it looks like it's a pretty good site. I'm gonna try it. And see what comes out of it. And so you can go on there and you can, like I say, you can look up any subject basically, and then the people who are related to that, studied it, um, you can go on there and you can research them as well. And if it's something that is suitable, related to whatever you're doing, you can invite them as a guest. And that's what I'm going to try to do. Let's see what happens from there. So, see what happens. But anyways, just try. I guess we have to just try the best that we can do, even when it comes to, when it comes to diet. You know, um, your health is on you, and of course, people who have health issues related to diet, it's always recommended to talk to your doctor or see a doctor. And that, so, especially when it comes to overweight, obesity, diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, other health issues, you know, uh, cardiovascular disease, or whatever the case may be. Um, it's a good idea to talk to a doctor. So, but yeah, this is what I want to do. I'll be going back on there and see and see if I can get some guests to come on my podcast, and that's going to it's not going to happen overnight, obviously. So, sending out the emails to them, wait for them to get back, whether it's yes or no, planning a time. So in the meantime, I'm a one-man show, which is okay too, but I think it'd be more interesting too to have somebody else to have an insight from professionals in the health and wellness field, to talk to them and ask questions. So hopefully, that comes around and it happens. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy your upcoming week. Here in Southern Ontario, Canada, we're going to have spring-like conditions. And for the next 14 days, it's going to stay above zero, into the double digits. Spring is just around the corner. I can say I'd be glad, when winter's over. We haven't had much of a winter here in Southern Ontario. Maybe out west, the prairies and Eastern Canada, stuff like that, it got much colder. They got, much more snow. And there wasn't even enough, here in Southern Ontario, there wasn't even really enough snow to shovel. Yeah, it got cold sometimes, it was wet sometimes, but just not the winters that I was used to growing up. But anyways, it is what it is, and spring is just around the corner. One of my favorite seasons, and especially summertime. But we're getting there. So hopefully you can come out and join me next weekend. I hope I have a better start to the weekends, because this weekend just wasn't a good start to the weekend. Yesterday, Saturday, it would have been my second Saturday coming back to doing Saturdays. Didn't pan out yesterday, and then Sunday morning, this morning was hectic, and here I'm doing an afternoon show. But I'm still going to, in the time being, I'm still going to focus on that Saturday morning show at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm hoping it's going to stay that way. I can't control what's going to happen. So I'm just going to stick with that. And hopefully, it continues. So, of course, if you've been following the Truckers Podcast, FYI, you can see there's a lot of absentees in there, and for a while, just emotionally, it's been difficult in the past. What is it? 11 months now. Hasn't even been a year. Hasn't been a year since the passing of our father, but that's a lot of struggle, and still reeling with that and dealing with that. But anyways, I'm just trying to move on, get on with my life and do what I can. And I've been doing the podcast since 2019. I invested time. You invested time. You invested your time into listening podcasts. I invest in time of creating one. and to have listeners like yourselves on the show, and how much I appreciate that. Investment in, um, equipment, microphone, laptop, secondary screen, getting a relatively good system going, with the interface. I went through several of those too, but I finally settled on one, and that's the Scarlett Focusrite. I really like it. And then I switched microphones again. I went to the Shure microphone, and that, so just investment and my time and your investment, is more important, because you, the listeners, are the podcast. Because without you, there would be no podcast. So the time that you invest in listening into podcasts, I'm just the host behind the microphone. So without you, I wouldn't be sitting behind the microphone. But I want to move this podcast, in a new direction, and get guests on my show. Any recommendations, you're free to uh, recommend, or somebody, might be interested, somebody in the health and wellness would be interested in maybe coming on. But I'm going to do my own homework as well. But like I said, until next weekend, Saturday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. I hope you can join me. Until then, have a good week. Take care. Be safe. And hopefully you can come back on my show again and listen. If you can, that's great. If you can't, I understand. And that's that. That's the show for today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Doug, from Ontario, Canada. Take care.